Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to talk about Pennsylvania in general and deer hunting. And Pennsylvania is one of the toughest places to get a trophy. I mean, on public lands, it's almost next to impossible to get them. Okay. I'm 63 years old and I've hunted a lot of public land and scouted a lot of public land. It's just hard to be able to get a trophy buck in Pennsylvania. Slim chance. I'm not saying you can't, because it has been done and it's done every year. But you have to go back and scout and scout and scout and get back where nobody has been, and that's a tough issue on public land. With some of these buck that you see on these programs that they say they get it on public land, well, they do, but hate to tell you this, private land probably joins to it, okay, which is most likely. And what happens is when the rut comes in, of course, the buck will follow the doe. So if the buck follows the doe and it goes onto the public land, the deer gets an opportunity to get shot. But it's a tough situation. So then the next thing you have that you have a good chance of getting is if you do drives in the mountains and stuff, and drives everywhere. I'm not totally against that. I mean, you could do what you want to do. I mean, but deer do need sanctuaries to grow and get big. If you're going to do drives, that's fine. But if you're expecting to get trophy bucks in Pennsylvania, something that's 100 and above, it's not going to happen, because people are going out there, instead of considering when they go on a drive, they shoot browners down. Now, when I say that, it's a law that you can, okay? So I can't condemn that. But then the other thing you got to think about, every time that you shoot like a 6-point or whatever, young buck or a young doe, he's not getting older. And the more doe you shoot, you need doe to make buck. So as what I've seen in the state of Pennsylvania, and the Game Commission don't really give a flying toot, okay, how many doe are there, and there's certain areas has more doe than others, okay, but lots of that is on private land, and they do move from time to time on public land. Like the bucks that I got behind me, I have a 128 on the wall, and there's a 10-point that scores 141, and then there's the other one that scored 118. They were all done on private land. I hunt both. There's only a few that I got on public land. The one rack I don't even put on the wall. I mean, I have the rack, but I don't have it mounted. It scored about 100. And I usually don't even shoot anything in Pennsylvania, even on private land, unless it scores somewhere close to 100. But not many people are like me. But then they complain and bitch why they don't see a lot of deer and a lot of doe. Okay, there's two scenarios here that need to be changed, or you're going to continue to have this issue. Number one, you have the gun or you have the bow in your hand. You have the control of what you shoot. So if you see a small little doe, you probably shouldn't shoot it. If you see a 6-point and he's young, you probably shouldn't shoot it. Now, I can understand if you are a junior hunter and you haven't hunted for a long time, I got that. But as he gets older, and everybody gets older, if they want to see Pennsylvania prosper, like Ohio and some of these other states, you're going to have to change the law in Pennsylvania to 4 on one side, which would make it most of the time an 8-point. Okay, you got to give them some years. But most of the time, people are not willing to do that. because they just want the meat. And I know the meat is good and everything. But if you could just lay off the stuff for not at least 4 years or so, and anything small, don't shoot, because if you shoot some small doe, you're going to shoot a button buck. Okay. So the main thing when you get out hunting, we all go out there. Of course, we want to get something, but that's not always the thing to do. That thinking, well, I'll just shoot something, brown it down, and I'll feel good about it. Well, won't you go out and try to enjoy it and have a learning experience? Learn from certain things. Learn to get to be a better hunter. Learn how the deer travel. Learn that in Pennsylvania, when you're hunting, bow hunting, you have to be basically on top of the trails of the bucks or the does during the rut. And like I said, I got those with a bow. And it took a lot of hard work, even in private land. And let me tell you one thing. Wind direction makes a lot of difference. And their noses. You can catch younger bucks, but these bigger ones, you're not. I said, because you have to have the wind in your favor, and it doesn't matter what cover-up you put on. If you go into a certain area and they smell you, you're done. Sometimes you'll come back. And those bucks that I got up on the wall, unfortunately, I got them from November the 3rd up to November the 6th. So we know what that was, the rut. So on the private land that I hunt on, which the relations now are hunting, they didn't before, they're shooting a lot of the doe. And my buddies and stuff, I told them, I said straight out, we got to limit the doe that we shoot, okay? The best thing that you can have on your property, of course, is it's close to agricultural fields, okay? And that's where a lot of the doe go, closer to the fields where the bucks go further back in. So you need to have the doe there. So when the rut comes on, the bucks will come searching for the doe. But if you shoot the hell out of all the doe and you all have little younger ones there, them bucks are not coming. They're not coming at all. Okay, so take that in theory now. You take it on public land, which is even tougher yet, and you shoot everything brown is down, and you feel good about it. You take your meat home. You paid for your license. As a nature-wise, how can you feel good about taking something that's easy to take? Don't you have competitiveness in your blood to be able to look at something and say, hey, I've got enough of these. I don't need to shoot one. If I got to go empty-handed 1 year, oh, so be it. I want to get like something that's on the wall up there. And so does many other people. So, like I said, I'm 63 years old. It took me a long time to get these. And Pennsylvania, the Game Commission, I don't know how they do their deer counts, but I can tell you one thing. Not everybody turns their report cards in. And I don't know positively if the game wards really get out there and see what's there in there for square miles. Because when I'm on the game lands, lots of times the only time you see the game warden is if he's sitting on the truck waiting for you to come out, see if you have orange or something on. So I don't know how they do this, because every time I go out, whether it's summer, spring, or fall, you never see them. So how can they tell how many deers and accounts out there per square mile? That's just an estimate. They're not even doing anything. They go back in and check. I mean, because on Game Land 221, 212, I've been at 139. I've been out so many different ones. You just don't see them. So, am I blaming the game wardens? Not really. I'm complaining because I know a lot of other people are complaining. But I can tell you right now, every government run system, which we have, and we have a lot of corruption anywhere you look at it. Not saying the game commission is corrupt, but do you really think they care about the money more to get for license? And I know the license hasn't gone up a lot, but still, they're giving out a lot of dough tags. That's money. They really don't really, they consider the money first and the revenue first before they even think about the deer herds. Uh, and if any wardens listen to this, I'm sorry to say that, but I do think that you need to do something better than what you're doing now. And however you say how many deer per square mile, and there's certain areas I do know around Philadelphia, the suburban areas and stuff, the deer are there. Okay. And a lot of that is kind of like you're giving a false pretense in a way, because a lot of times you can't even hunt there. So really, you shouldn't even take that in conjunction with your count, because those deer you can't hunt anyway. So as the Pennsylvania Game Commission, they also need to change some of the stuff, because as a hunter, we all know that a lot of hunters will just shoot anything. So the second thing you need to do then is the Game Commission's got to take control of it and just say, hey, it's going to be at 8 point or above for on one side. Juniors, different story. Juniors can shoot a 4 points or whatever the law is now on up. But as an adult, how can we be proud of just shooting something that's 40 or 50 pounds? I've seen men pull does and stuff out about 40 or 50 pounds just to get the meat. Okay. So there have to be some restrictions, even with yourself. You can't blame everything on the Game Commission, because you can't let them control it, because you have the gun in your hand, you have the bow in your hand, because it's like anything else the government controls. It usually don't go well. All they're involved in it, more so the money than anything. How many times that maybe you have been out and you come out a hunting area and you finally see a game warden. All of a sudden, all year long, you don't see them. Okay. And all of a sudden, they check your arm, you check for everything. And they have a right to do all that. Okay. And they could write you up for something small, simple. Like maybe depending on how pricky it is. Now, some of them are not pricky. Some of them just are checking you out to check you out, but there's some are really pricky. And they find any little thing, they'll write you up. But my gripe about it is, why do you only see them at certain times around hunting season? Why ain't they out there actually in the field doing things? Okay. If I would be a game warden, I would love just to go out there and walk around and go in the woods and check it out. It's a wonderful nature out there. You get some kind of a count. I mean, actual count that's in hunting areas. You can't just take a square mile countage, and say, well, we're counting this is how many deers per square mile, when a lot of that could be private and suburban areas that you can't hunt. And it's nice that some people would let you go into suburban areas with a bow and hunt, but not everybody wants you to do that. I live in a condo development that has tons of deer around, but the township owns most of it, and they won't let you hunt. And because the other reason, if there's anybody that's involved in the township or anything, and I'm not going to put Democrats down, there are a lot of it's the liberal, and they don't want nobody hunting. And sometimes they, think that the hunter's doing wrong by killing deer and shooting deer, but they don't know the full facts. They don't know the reason why we do it. I mean, there's plenty of reasons. I don't have to explain them all, because we all know what. So I'm just letting everybody know, and I'm not going to do more about hunting in Pennsylvania because there's a lot to cover. You know, if you liked what I'm doing here and you want more on Pennsylvania deer hunting, uh, subscribe or hit the like button. It, you know, I'm just retiring here soon, which would give me something to do. And I enjoy talking. I enjoy trying to share my experience in the field. Not that I say that I know everything, because I don't. You know, we're always learning, but that's how we learn from other people. But when you see some of these podcasts and you see them going out and they shoot a deer out there, gotta remember, not all what you see is what it seems. Okay, the deer's there and they did shoot it, and they had cameras and everything for that deer to be there, and they scouted it. But how many that you can actually go on YouTube, and if you look at Pennsylvania deer hunting, you will come across a few decent buck. But if you go search Ohio, Illinois, and Kansas, all of a sudden you see a totally different avenue, meaning the bucks are bigger. Okay, so the next time, and maybe I'll cover, what bows I have, and there's certain things I believe that you have advantage with a regular bow, because if you're in a tree stand, I always try to hunt on a tree stand, but I don't always hunt in a tree stand. I also hunt some public land at times on the ground and have a blind and a crossbow, because the reason why is the crossbow is a lot smaller and easier to handle and less movement for the buck to see. And I don't really actually take out a blind. There's all kind of natural stuff out there that you can make a blind. But 90% of everything I do is in a tree stand. Those bucks that are in the back, taking over a tree stand, every one of them with a bow, a regular compound bow. So if you're anxious for me to go on to show you my equipment, my accessories, and some more of this, hit the like button, subscribe button, just to let everybody know, even the younger kids and everything, that bow hunt, it's a beautiful thing, and nature's a beautiful thing. God gave us a lot. Get yourself involved in bow hunting. Don't do a crossbow first. Go to a compound and maybe go traditional later. It's really fun practicing and making yourself a good and better at it, because when you go out to deer hunt bow and you get one like I got those couple up there, it makes you feel proud, because it's really hard to do with a bow. And there's very seldom in Pennsylvania you're going to get a big one. But like I said, when I was 12 years old, there was a lot more deer than there were now. And when I used to hunt in Potter County, my first buck I shot, I was 12 years old. I shot at the time you could shoot 4 points and stuff, which they did up at the 6 points later on. I ended up my first buck that I ever shot. I can still remember it. Was a 4 point. I think at that time you could have it shoot at a 3-inch spike buck. But believe it or not, I walked probably a good 3.5 miles back in to get a buck like that. And that wasn't a big buck, but I was proud of it. And I think all teenagers and stuff can learn. Don't be afraid to get off the game system and go out there. And you can use electronics with your phone if you have a Hunt Stand app or any of the apps to help you put pins down for funnels or creeks for lowlands. And you check the agriculture, check the creeks, you check the drainage ditches. There's ridges, of course, that you want to check out, and of course thick stuff for bedding area. And there's so many benches that you can look at. you know. So hopefully I reach some of the younger hunters. It's a beautiful thing. So get off your game system and actually get out there and experience nature at its best. It's one of the best, how should I say it? It's not stressful, but it's real relieving and it's not stressful when you're in a tree stand. It's kind of dark yet, and all of a sudden the sun comes up over the hill, and we're 100 before I seen I was actually at my stand, and the turkeys were roosted in the tree. And it was just a wonderful thing. When the daylight hit, the turkeys came off the roost. And it was just fun to watch them. And they landed no more than, I guess, they got off maybe 50 yards away. And I watched them. It was about 25 of them or so. Uh, so there's a lot of things you see out there. Or I even see doe out there with fawns and stuff, lucking their fawns, washing them down. And that's just fun to watch. And you during hunts, you don't let them go. I just plain off let them go. So, like I said, all you hunters out there, good luck to you in scouting this, pre-scouting this season coming forward, because now you should be out there scouting, preparing for this season coming up. But just remember, things will change, so you have to re-scout, because there's 3 to 4 different phases that make the deer change and what they do. And I can cover that in the next video. So I love all you younger hunters. Love all the veterans. Love the United States of America. And you all have a wonderful day.